Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rung in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug.
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report, the commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Welcome to Your Feature Presentation, the podcast where we bring you the latest and greatest movies in pop culture. Maybe not the greatest this time. We're talking The Last Jedi, cinematic masterpiece or hot garbage. Let's find out. It's going to be a fun show today, and with me, the manic matinee maniac, Andrew McKay. Saber and
Greetings.
Beautiful. All right, and with us, we have a very special guest. You might know him as Jilly from RFR. You might... Shut. You might know him as Jake from State Farm. The one, the only, Joey Halek. Welcome, my friend.
Shut.
Beautiful.
I also brought Star Wars props.
Nice.
He holds my phone or pen sometimes. It's pretty cool. Oh, wow. Yeah, right. You just had that right there. Oh, yeah, I always have.
Can I create the shot?
You know. Then a Star Destroyer just flies right. I'm like, who's
been standing back here holding the Death Star the whole time. Comes over the camera.
It's like waiting. C-3PO. Oh my.
So the joke. So Joey sells insurance. That's why he's Jake from State Farm. So you've called in to Rebel Force Radio on some of their talk-in shows a couple times. And why don't you tell us what happened with your name?
Yeah, so so funny you bring that up. I literally told this story today to somebody. They called me Josie, and I said, no. My fake name is Jilly. And they're like, what is that? I called into a radio show, RFR. It's awesome. And the guy just misheard my name, and he must have typed it in wrong. So then he goes, oh, we have Jilly from Michigan. And I was like, that's not me. But then it was me. And I called in the next week, the same thing, because I was a repeat caller. They just had my data in there. And so they're like, oh, it's Jilly again. And so Heath picked that up right away. He goes, did they call you Jilly? And I was like, yes. And I couldn't correct them. And now if I call it again, I'm pretty sure I'll be Jilly.
As a friend, I don't celebrate that he was on Rebel Force Radio. I make sure he remembers only that he was called Jilly.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. But that was super
kind.
That was cool that you called in to those guys. Like, we have a lot of respect for Rebel Force Radio. That's definitely one of the reasons I loved podcasting. I just thought it was such a cool thing. And to me, I would love to have a Star Wars podcast, but I was like, why have a just Star Wars podcast when the perfect podcast already exists for it? So
yeah, Heath, you're the one who turned me on to RFR on our road trip to hiking in New York or Philadelphia, wherever it was, Pennsylvania. And that I'm like, wow, this is a really high quality podcast too. It was, even then it was incredible. And I just think it's gotten better and better. And it's really helpful.
Sweet. If you love Star Wars, which is probably people who are listening to this episode, then go check out Rebel Force Radio. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're going to talk The Last Jedi, and Andrew has an opening question for us.
Yes, opening question. Lucasfilm Ltd. We're all familiar. What does LTD stand for?
I thought it was limited.
Limited?
Oh, nice. Wow. Am I the only one who didn't know this?
I thought it was a trick question at first. I thought that was like knowledge.
I rewatched this movie for this, obviously. And I was like, oh, what does LTD stand for? I have no idea. And I was like, really just thinking so hard about it. It's like, it's not LLC. It's not blah, blah, blah. I was like, there's no way that this is just common knowledge. But I guess
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, maybe feel it. down and
That's hilarious. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought you
I
were a
feel-
curveball. I was like, I thought it was limited for all this years. That's going to be.
Yeah, I'm like, did I not know something that everybody knows? And nope, it was
It was
the
going to be
no. It was the opposite.
Lucas
and
Transdimensional Diaries or something like that. Yeah, beautiful.
yes,
Oh, yes.
Lucas
Transdimensional Diary.
Luke,
That's even better.
Transdimensional Diary.
But in reality, I just pulled an Andrew, and you expected a curveball, and I just went slow
Which
and
can make
middle.
you miss the swing. You know, it's a strategy. Both of us would have
That's
probably
true,
answered
that's
something else. Like,
It's one.
do you know what it is? LTD. It's like, I thought I did, but that you're asking makes me think I don't. Swing.
Making me second guess. Wow.
Do you know what ink means?
Monsters
Monsters.
I
Incorporated.
had an interview at one time.
Yes, yeah.
The guy asked me if I knew what HDMI meant, like stood for. And like, that's a weird. Like, he was trying to make sure I was tech savvy. Yeah, do you guys know what
yes,
HDMI
in
stands
my head.
for?
I'm gonna
High
guess, but
definition media input.
That's what I think.
I
You
looked
don't
at
even
it.
know.
It's
You
gold.
you
No,
brought
'cause I
this
think I
up
said
and you didn't even have the
interface, but I
answer.
think it's input, but who knows?
Well, you know what? There's HDMI in and out, so you might be right
Who knows?
because you can't have.
Well, and that's why you're
HDMI
listening to this
input
episode,
output.
right? You want to find out what HDMI means.
Yes. This actually is not about The Last Jedi. It's all about little tiny acronyms and what
Today
they
on
mean.
acronym talk.
Yeah. Modern acronyms.
So
That's it. I'm
the
starting
last
that's
Jedi
the show.
I wanted to get like some opening statements, but I think we're gonna feel them as we go through. So maybe we'll save some like broad statements or as they come to you. But like, let's just dive in and let's just talk about this movie. What do you say, boys? All right.
I'm so down. I'm ready.
Ready.
Yeah.
I rewatched it just like Andrew a couple days ago. Took notes the whole time. Tried to be like, I guess I'll give my opinion right away, but I tried to be positive with my outlook.
Yes.
And like wrote down things I really liked and things I really didn't like.
Let's do it.
And I'm ready. Ready.
So yeah, starts off the classic crawl. I thought it was a great opening. I love the ship going through other ships as they're taking off from the planet. And I think this show looks good. Like, I feel like it looks like Star Wars. And I've got a point later on, but like this show,
Yep.
I have a lot of negatives. Oh boy, do I have a lot of negatives. This looks like Star Wars. Yeah. This sounds like Star Wars, and this sounds like Star Wars. The music's there, the sound effects are there, the visuals I think look really good. Mm-hmm. Definitely not as there's one section to me that gets very CG heavy that I'm like, this doesn't feel like The Force Awakens, even when they were trying to kind of go back to those real roots. But yeah, what do you guys think of this? Oh, like, does it feel like Star Wars to you?
It felt like Star Wars to me, and then some positive, I'll say. I think that whole opening sequence, you get a real sense of Hux and how like incompetent he is.
Holding for hugs?
Him at the bridge of a ship in your mind.
Got a question?
You hold him
about his
in
mother.
your mind and compare him to those.
It's funnier if I do it while you're talking.
I'll hold.
Okay.
No, I'll hold.
It's Hux is incompetent, and you get that understanding. You hold him in your mind because, like, up against the people who have stood in bridges that look very similar, right? Vader, that old guy who they recreated with CGI in Rogue One. This is embarrassing. Mon
Tarkin.
Not Mon Mothma. She's a Republican.
Tarkin.
Sorry. Yes, Grand Moff Tarkin.
You know, or
I know
it could be Grandma Tarkin.
Grandma Tarkin.
Grandma Tarkin.
Hey, Grandma Tarkin.
Sorry, Heath, I heard you say it, and I'm just ignoring
fair.
it now.
You're punishing
You actually
me.
muted him. You can't hear anything he's.
Yeah, he's.
You can't fire me. I quit.
You're off the.
No, so I liked that, like, okay, this guy's incompetent, and you're communicating that to me in a really funny way, and I like it. But mostly what I liked about this opening was Poe Dameron, because I think it set him apart from being a recreated Han Solo, like really like hard line rebel, like a true to the core rebel. And it's like Force Awakens, is this character just going to be Han Solo recycled? And the opening made me feel like, I wrote down that he's the only like Spider-Man-esque character in Star Wars that I can think of. Like, he is incredibly efficient rebel with an absolute hilarious mouth on him.
Yeah, I could see that. I like the opening for the feel, but it immediately loses some traction for me. The same reason that I haven't thought about it highlighting how like incompetent Hux was, but I just think like, okay, they literally, apparently this movie is supposed to start like minutes after, you know, the last one, and they just destroyed multiple planets, and then they're all about domination, and they let an X-Wing just hang out close to negotiate surrender. They don't even want people to surrender. They literally just blew up billions of people, and then they're like, oh, well, we'll just let the rebel force escape because this guy's going to talk to us and negotiate a surrender. And like, you clearly don't care about other people. Why would you not just shoot him out of the sky right away? Like, even if you are incompetent, I'm like, you literally just murdered billions, and you're like, let's see what this guy has to say.
Yeah, I feel like the humor is a bit too much. I love Poe's character. I think he's probably my favorite character in this series. But I think the humor goes a bit too far. Like the your mother joke, I feel like it's not funny. And yeah. And
you're like, okay, we got it. You're fine.
I guess Hux,
and then that just
I
took
feel
over.
Like his did you guys know, did you catch that Poe calls him Hugs? Huggs. Yeah, he calls him Hugs.
No.
Commander Hugs. Yeah, I watch it with the subtitles on. It's like Commander Hugs. I'm holding for Commander Hugs.
I prefer, especially Star Wars, I think I prefer the incompetent like naval officer to be like the guy who was on the Dreadnought. It's like, we should have launched our ships 5 bloody minutes ago. Like, I still want to be scared by them, and I'm not scared of Hux at all. It's like, can he hear me? Like, there's radio. Like, it bothers me a bit.
You want the incompetence to be met with like unkempt aggression, like just thrashing, instead of just like, I don't know what to do.
And then
get him.
Okay, so like what I also was thinking was, okay, so Han Solo did joke, and like when he was on the Death Star and he was trying to get, we got to the prison level, and he's like, no, just a weapons malfunction. Everything's fine here. How are you? That's classic. But he's not going like taunting about their mother. Like that was, it went from being like a little smug to just kind of being over the top jocular in a life or death situation.
The mother, I think, felt too, and then we can move on from this part because we're still in the first 2 seconds of the movie. The mother aspect of it made it feel, I think, a bit too real world. And I never thought about it, Joey, but to that point, Han Solo is being a goofball, but the other guy is completely serious. Who are you? What is this? It's like, it's like that. I think that's what makes it funny. I think Hux is being ridiculous and Poe is being ridiculous. Like, you should have had, like, if Poe was doing that to the Dreadnought captain, I think that would have played a lot better, because you can't have 2 goofballs that are just like, well, then this isn't serious. Like, are you guys afraid of this person? Like, are you trying to get out of? Like, so I think that's probably, I never thought about it, but I think that's why the humor goes too much, is you can't have 2 Jim Carreys talking to each other.
Yeah, I guess, unless it's a comedy movie, right? And it's not supposed to be. It's like...
Yeah. So I think this would take it to my next note, which is you have that, like, very comedic, at least attempt, or successful or attempt at really interesting, both characters being comedic. Then you go right into the bombing run, where there's like genuine life sacrifice. You feel like you're watching a World War II movie,
Yeah.
And it's like, what was I doing 2.5 minutes ago? I was watching someone make a your mom joke. And now someone is like dying to send the bombs down on the dreadnought.
And
this movie does that so much. There's so much like chunky, really rough transitions.
Yeah, because it's not like you haven't seen people die before in the middle of a funny moment. It's just that normally it's like, oh, a fighter got shot down. Okay, that happens. It's Star Wars. But it was very dramatic and very like, here's this person holding onto a family amulet, and then you meet the next person, like the sister, and you're like, oh, it's just so emotional after that ridiculous little joking session. So,
yes.
Talk about the bombs, though. Okay, that's my thought. So, to my knowledge, it's never been canonized how, like, the bombs work. But in the Rogue Squadron video games, okay, back in the day, you had Rogue Squadron, Rogue Leader, Rebel Strike, all of the bombers, they dropped proton bombs as well as torpedoes, and those were very fast. And they looked like proton torpedoes, but they just bombed down and exploded. They weren't actual physical bombs. They were more like energy bombs. So
yeah, they weren't giant thermal detonators.
Right, which we've never seen a bomb really in Star Wars before out of a ship, so that's fine. We've seen concussion missiles and, the sonic booms or whatever that Django uses, but we don't see the seismic tosses, but we don't see regular bombings runs. So that, like, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for that because we haven't seen it. But in my head canon, I'm like, nope, that's wrong. Like, that's not how it was in all the games I played growing up. Like, that's not how bombing works.
So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there is a great little clip of Sam Witwer talking about The Last Jedi. And Sam Witwer, for those people who don't know, he is a huge Star Wars fan. He played Starkiller in the video games. He plays a lot of voices. Yeah, Darth Maul. Does a lot of cool stuff in the Star Wars world and still doing it today. Like, he's a lot of the Stormtrooper voices. Like, his hands are all through Star Wars. What he says is he feels like Rian Johnson is a guy who didn't do his homework on Star Wars. And I thought the same thing about the bombs. And I think to this point, I feel like I'll reference this a lot during this movie talk, is those should have been Y-Wings. Like, that's the Rebel bomber, So I think that's why it was weird that we were getting. They're very cool. I love those ships. I love that bombing run, and I think you're right. It does feel, the sacrifice feels real. Feels very World War II, which George Lucas was all about. But this is something they bring up on Rebel Force Radio a lot: is stop giving us stuff that's inspired George Lucas. Give us Star Wars. Like, I think they were like, oh, George Lucas loved World War II, dogfights. He loved all these old samurai movies. It's like, that's great, but give us Star Wars. It's like, I wanted to see Y-Wings swing in. Like, I've played for hours on, I think it was Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron 2, those bombing missions. I'm like, that's a Star Wars bomber,
So fun. Yeah, and you know what? I had that too in my notes. I said,
"Why?" I literally have the same exact note.
Why didn't they just use those? Like, literally, Y-Wings are bombers. That's so funny. But then, so the other part, and I think Rian Johnson was more of a listening to whatever the committee wanted, which that's getting a little too, like, I know too much about it. I'm trying to avoid that. Like,
I am not a committee.
In the background and all the media afterwards.
I'm not a committee.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true.
So
we are a committee.
We are right now. We're a committee on this. But so the bombs, yes, Star Wars doesn't follow science. There's fire in space. That's fine. But how do you have zero gravity and also have bombs that have gravity? They're not shot down. They're literally dropped, and they don't all just like float out in space. When a spaceship explodes right next to a Star Destroyer, there's just pieces floating. But yet bombs suddenly drop straight down. It's like, well, how does that work? Because, I mean, that is also just like, that's why, like, the proton torpedoes and the proton bombs would make more sense, because there's, like, force, there's energy. And then, you can have an explosion in space, which makes no sense. But that's okay. That's part of Star Wars.
It did feel weird.
So I'm like, is space a vacuum or is it not a vacuum? Like, what is it?
Yeah, like her open bay doors.
Yeah.
She's fine.
Yeah,
there's a couple vacuum of space questions that I have in this movie. Again, those are very light questions because, like you said, there's a lot of suspension of belief. What is it? Suspension of disbelief, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of give when you have sci-fi stories in general.
Right.
You're like, I don't care. Fire in space looks dope.
Yeah.
Do it, right? But then there's other things that catch you, and those things are usually gravity, how people's faces look.
Yeah.
Like vacuums of space.
Yeah.
Those people aren't usually they're not able to tell you immediately why it's wrong, but they just feel it.
Well, Princess Leia gets sucked out of the ship, but
oh my gosh.
the bomber lady just stands there.
And I think the problem is there's too many of those. Because I think, okay, maybe there's a bubble around the ship, which doesn't make sense.
Right. But there's an internal gravity well or a shield that's preventing, lets the bombs pass through, but she can breathe somehow.
And the same thing, I've heard that, things in space that are big enough would create their own gravity. And so that's the argument I've heard for it. But, I mean, Andrew's shaking his head. I'm assuming that's not big enough. And I think the big thing, too, is there's too many of those. So, fire in space, they shoot a laser, which should work in space, and there's fire, which maybe that wouldn't exactly work. But, yeah, it's Star Wars. We're not here to be this could never happen, But...
Right. It's not an Andy Weir novel.
But then
that guy's
if
got
there's
everything.
too many of these things that are ridiculous, then it feels okay, it hits that too much. We can't have her not getting sucked out of the ship, bombs falling, and the humor, and just this looked great, and now you just lost me so fast. I have one more thing I want to say about the opening before we move on, unless you guys have something. So when Poe takes out all the gun turrets, easily, not even a problem for him. I'm okay with that, but this is starting the trend of that these are God tier characters. Your main heroes are invincible. And I do think we see this in older media as well, even Beowulf or the Two Towers, especially Aragorn and Éomer jumping out of the gate in the book, jumping out of the gate and fighting armies and then pulling back. These heroes are so epic and vast that they can't be easily defeated, and they're so much higher than the rest of the other enemy soldiers. But I do get a little weary of it when it feels so much in these movies. Luke's, I mean, we can keep talking about it, but just I feel that's a big trend in these sequels, in the sequel trilogy, is these characters are way above it. And I would say
it truly depends on one person rather than the communal effort of the rebellion. Yeah, I totally agree. That's the main takeaway for me.
All right, so now we've got the famous. This movie takes place minutes after The Force Awakens, and Luke is handed the lightsaber, and he tosses it over his shoulder.
We all have thoughts.
Hey, let's
dude, yeah. I have one single question.
Okay.
Can I start with that? So this is the only question I have is Luke, for the movie, let's say just for the movie, that Luke has to be a version of him that has abandoned his efforts to restore the Jedi. He has to be for this movie. What would you have preferred he do with the lightsaber?
That's exactly one of my points. That's so weird. So my thought was I would have been okay if Luke would have been a curmudgeon the whole time. That's fine. We haven't seen him in 20, 30 years. Things change. That's okay. But he should have been somebody that would still have revered the past and just not have thrown the saber, kept the saber, or returned it. And then my thoughts were, why didn't they just make him a wise old man who still refused to help and be miserable? Not just a total jerk.
100%.
That's no, everything that you thought and believed, I've just thrown it all away. You're stupid. Why'd you come find me? Be a grumpy man. That's cool. And refuse to help. And then Rey has to somehow bring the light out of you so you help a little bit. But it was just a little too jarring and like just too far. It just literally went too far in that direction where he was almost beyond redemption. I mean,
that's a great. Yeah, I love that question, Andrew. And I think it part of it is hard because that's how Rian Johnson was handed the movie. It's okay, Rey is literally holding out a lightsaber to Luke Skywalker. What's next? Like, he had to decide that. I feel like maybe he wouldn't have set it up like that if he had control of the first movie. My answer is I wish he had done anything else besides throw it. Because I feel like throwing it...
Like, if you would rather that he destroy it? Like, force dismantle it?
I feel like it was so flippant. It's like, I don't care. And he threw it over his shoulder. And Rian Johnson has said the whole reason he did that is he wanted to be the most what you would not expect at all. It's for Luke just to like...
Subverting expectations was all I heard after that. It's like, and then you think about it, you're like, yeah, everything that you thought...
This isn't going to go the way you think. Luke says that in the trailer. But I feel like if he had just dropped it, I think it would have been better and conveyed the same thing. I think if he had handed it back to Rey and said, I can't be who you want me to be, but just throwing it just felt so, like he was just a dick about it.
Yeah, it's like throwing away your childhood. He's like, everything you love, whatever, screw you.
That's, I thought about this question for a long time, probably 7 full days, actually. And
That's awesome.
That is a very long time.
Yes.
How long?
That was when I rewatched it. And then since then I've been thinking about it. And I think that my ideal situation for the same exact Luke, because I have opinions about Luke as that character for some, like, whatever. But if he's the same character, I would have rather that he, like, confiscated it from her. Like, she's handing it to him to say, come and help us. And he's going to take it, be like, where did you get this? And, like, play into that a little bit because we don't know. And she'll be like, I got it, like, I found it. And he's like, well, this doesn't represent what you think it represents. And he, like, puts it away. And I would love that, like, I'm going to take this away from you so that you stop making it this, like, idol. Like, I am not who you think I am. This lightsaber doesn't represent what you think it represents. So I'm just going to take it and stow it away. Because then that gives him the opportunity later to come out of that kind of curmudgeon thing and give it back to her.
And
right.
And we can talk about the apprentice leaving while the master is training them later, because that shows up. But that would have been even better for him to be like, okay, I'll show you some stuff about the Force. Then when she's like, I have to go, for him to remember when he had to leave Yoda and give her his lightsaber, that would have been way better. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I could talk about that bad direction for way too long. But I don't really want it to be. I think, like, no matter what type of fan you are, you think that moment was dumb. And you're like, that was
wasted. So wasted.
Such a bad call. No matter if you loved the movie or hated it, almost everybody I talked to was like, yeah, that was, I don't know why he did that.
Yeah, and even Mark Hamill has said, too, that he felt like he needed to channel Jake Skywalker, like that wasn't even Luke, because he felt like the Last Jedi version was so different than what he has played.
Why didn't he call it Luke with the 2 U's, like the Thrawn trilogy? Jeez. Why do you have to go Jake? Why are you throwing my name? Jake?
They should have called him Jilly Skywalker.
Jeez. Jilly Skywalker. What?
Okay, so yeah, let's move on a bit. So I think... well,
the next part I have notes on, which, of course, if you have other questions, I mean, so it's here to talk the whole thing. But my next was actually at the end part of Canto Bight, which I really liked the planet.
I've got a lot to say.
I thought that was kind of cool. Obviously, at the end, it kind of is all for nothing, right? But my biggest stupid moment...
Hey, let's save it. No, save it.
When they're riding...
I've got so much before we get to Canto Bight.
Okay, we're backing up. He's like, let me pull out 3 films.
45 more minutes, brother.
How far is it after Rey's training with Luke before Canto Bight? It can't have been that one.
We've got a bit.
Isn't that like
a little while?
Oh, I guess you got the whole interaction on the ship too that goes back before they take off there. I guess that's true.
I do. I have something to mention about the next scene. So Heath, you tell me if you landed in this area as well. I loved Snoke in that throne room. I'm a big Andy Serkis fan, as I'm sure most of us are. I think that he's among the literal best actors that have ever been in Star Wars. Maybe a different topic, or we can talk about it later. However, I noticed that Snoke, in this rewatch, Snoke has Hux, and Kylo Ren is kind of entering in at partway through the scene. But he calls Hux a cur. He's like, "You filthy cur," or something like that. And as a form of manipulation, then he's like, "Get out of here. Essentially, I won't kill you. You can still work for me because you've given me a little nugget." He leaves. Kylo Ren comes in. And this is my thing that I noticed that was really amazing. This is a positive for the movie. Snoke told Kylo, like, look at that basically wild dog, like that pitiful little creature. I manipulate him, and he does exactly what I say. That's amazing. And his literal next words to Kylo Ren, if you hold that in context with the rest of the movie, is the beginning of a manipulation of Kylo Ren. And he, like, Kylo's character is nowhere near as mature as he thinks he is. And Snoke is twisting him so much, and I love it.
It's like, this is I'm going to show you what's going to happen, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do to you, and you're still going to fall for it.
Yes. Yep, because completely. I am so controlling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're
great.
so weak.
I love all the Snoke stuff, and...
Did that change for you? I know it's Last Jedi. Did any of that respect change after the Rise of Skywalker came out? With the reveal there, did any of that, like, you watch back and you're like, positive or negative, did that affect it for you?
Yeah, I like Snoke way more after
really
episode.
That's interesting. I guess I was really bummed that they did him dirty, that he was just supposed to be a weird Palpatine clone that didn't pan out. Like, I feel like that was a bummer. But I love the whole idea of the big bad that we know got killed, because that was something that we're like, he's supposed to be there for all 3 movies and die at the end, you know?
That's a really good example of subverting expectations. That one went well.
In a good way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one went really well because it was a genuine, serious shock. Yeah.
That, when that happened too, that was, you kind of thought the movie was going to end there. And then it keeps going, and it was almost like at the Dark Knight when the Joker burns all the money and all the crap hits the fan, and then you're like, oh, the movie's over, like goes to black, and then there's like another 35 minutes, and you're like, yes, oh my God. That's what that moment was like for me. I was like, oh, he's dead, holy crap, and they killed everybody. Wow, it's over.
And I'll get to the Rey Kylo stuff.
Should have been. Andrew's like, should have. All right, what's your next big maybe not complaint?
I was gonna say I like Snoke. I actually really like all the Kylo and Rey stuff. I like that they're connecting.
Yes.
I like that they're like people call it Force time instead of FaceTime. I love that. Yeah.
Like FaceTime. That's funny.
That was a funny like meme that came out.
So I think there's a lot going on.
That's
there.
pretty good.
I do have some stuff that I really like about that, but I feel like with Luke on this island, I think my biggest complaint about this is Andrew. What does Luke choose to do at the end of Empire that we just talked about 2 weeks ago?
He leaves his training.
To save who?
Against the request to save.
And now we're supposed to believe that Luke cuts himself off from everybody, and even hearing Han has died.
Yeah,
is still like, I don't care. Like,
yep,
doesn't feel like Luke. And I asked myself this question, Andrew. I was like, what would have made it better, or what could have like Luke been doing? I'm like, if Luke had a mission on that island, I think it would have been completely different. Like if he was like, I found some dark side power that's trying to escape and I'm actively fighting against it. Like he's holding something back by being there. Like some mission that Luke was doing as well. He's like, I feel like I failed, so I was trying to get away, but I found this dark thing, and if I leave here, this power is going to get like, give him something to do, because he just gave up and left. And it's like, yeah, that's it.
Genuinely just gave up.
Yeah, so like I agree. I was a bad choice. However, I could see how 30 years, a lot of things could happen in someone's life and traumatic events, and you could process it differently. But then we kind of find out what happened, and it's like, it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to shut yourself off the force because you failed a couple students.
So this is exactly another issue that I have with it, is there's no compelling backstory that we get as the audience to convince us that Luke was, even in his own mind, warranted in cutting himself off from the Force, leaving all his friends and family, dropping everything, and just being a hermit. Because, like, in my rewatch, when his Jedi temple is burning and he falls to his knees and he puts his, like, he's right next to R2-D2, I paused it and I looked and I was like, there are like 50 bodies of children in front of him. That does not affect me as the audience, because I had to pause it and like squint my eyes.
Are those younglings?
It could have, that whole, you give us like only, I know 10 minutes is a lot of real estate in a movie, but give us 10 minutes of a genuine Luke backstory with the Jedi Temple to make me care. You know, and it just wasn't there.
I know we're kind of talking rewriting the movie a little bit, but one of the thoughts, like, as a fun thought, I think I told you this before, Heath, but seeing the complete sequel trilogy, I think it would have been really cool to have the second movie be a flashback almost completely about Luke's time and like, what's Luke been up to? What happened with him and Han and Leia, have them all together, him raising Ben, all this stuff, and then have it end with him dying, sure, and then continue on to the Rise of Skywalker. Like, it would have been so cool. We never really got to hear about the Knights of Ren. We didn't really get to see, like you said, more than a few frames of the destruction. Like, you have no idea how you're supposed to feel for this guy when you get a slight glimpse of pain. You're like, oh.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I think all of us are saying that too. It's just like, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. So like, I couldn't write a Star Wars movie that would be better than this, but I'll pick it apart.
Oh, no.
Sure, because I'm a fan, and that's my right. Okay, so this.
Yeah.
I
enjoy Star Wars. I love Star Wars. And even the ones I don't like, I'm still like, you know what? It's Star Wars. It's entertaining to watch.
Yes, genuinely, after like the whole rewatch, during the rewatch, I was 5 minutes in and I was like, I'm glad I'm watching this. So all of our very strong like emotions, I feel like, are in that context of like, we're not just haters, and we're not those guys that are like, the original trilogy is the only Star Wars that's good. Like, there's so much good stuff, and this one is just,
it is so bad. I do think though, you want another positive thing. I don't mean to keep stealing from RoboForce Radio, but I've got so much RFR in my brain. But I think it was Jimmy Mack recently said how it's like the worst thing that Star Wars can be is boring, and that's his issue with some of these shows, is that they're boring.
Yes,
The Last Jedi is not boring. I think it takes a lot of missteps, but it is not.
Correct.
I think it's, like I said, the music's there, the visuals, the sound design. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good parts in it. But yeah, so that's my positivity.
So I like that. Can we talk about a negative again? I'm just kidding. Can we talk about the Leia
before we get there,
space sequence?
I have one more note ahead of that. So the slow chase. I wanted to ask you guys about this whole idea of the ships, like, just keeping out of the way of the Star Destroyers.
Oh my gosh, it's space. There's no drag. There's no air resistance on bullets. You can shoot for an eternity.
They're really laser cannons.
They're laser
cannons. Lasers. It's light. Like,
they're like, phew.
No, those are bombs. They're shooting bombs.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just a pirate movie.
Once again, I think it's a bit too much.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so they've never brought up fuel before, and like suddenly it was a big plot point in this movie only.
Well, it's never as a plot point. However, I'm almost certain that Han asks,
"You're right,"
Lando, or they have some sort of conversation where they're gonna repair and fuel up the Falcon,
and they're waiting for the transports and Empire to fuel up before they can take off.
Yes,
but
I'm okay with fuel existing, but I think that you're correct. Like, we've never had the we're gonna run out of fuel danger, because then also we're low on fuel. Let's fuel up from our reserves 30 escape transports. Where's that fuel coming from?
Nowhere. Magic.
They go hit a big switch.
So
That's just main fuel line to reserve.
Like, oh yeah.
Somebody turn this off.
So like, okay, when they get back to the ship and we're looking at Leia and Poe, I'm fine with her demoting him, right? And saying like, hey, you didn't listen and you sacrificed a lot of people. You were supposed to like distract and get out of there. We lost everybody. That's fine. But then like after that, like no one just talks to him, and he's clearly a key member. He's obviously a super good pilot, maybe too good, and he is in charge of people. People look up to him. He's a hero of the resistance, and you're like, everyone's like, just don't talk.
We're giving him
Don't tell
silent treatment.
It's not worth it.
mad.
He got demoted. I'm like, it's literally you guys are like the last few ships, and you're like, let's not talk to him and fill him as
So petty. Oh, it's
yeah. And I'm like, maybe Leia wouldn't have done that before she got unconscious or whatever. But at the end, when she's back, she's talking to Haldo about it and basically was like, yeah, thanks for following the plan. I'm like, so this was your fault the whole time?
So yeah, then we have the explosion and floating Leia. So Andrew, let's hear you're floating Leia.
Yeah. So I
favorite part, right?
At my favorite part. At this point, Carrie Fisher had passed, and I don't remember how long after the filming finished before the release she had passed, but it was a while, correct?
When did the film come out? 2018? Because Carrie passed away in the end of 2016.
I think
so. It was in
okay.
I believe
I believe she had filmed all of her stuff for The Last Jedi before she passed away.
Right. So I remember going to see this movie knowing, I was like, okay, Princess Leia is going to have to die in this movie. And I was prepared for it. I think everyone was prepared for it. And we were in that space. I remember I had felt like it had been a while, like at least a year since it had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to get to see her performance. And I was really excited, but that they were going to have to let the character go on, right? In hopefully a tasteful and beautiful way. Kylo Ren.
Not tasteful. Not
So Kylo Ren being the character just killed his dad. Kylo Ren being the character that is leading the little squadron of fighters down, not pushing the trigger to kill his mom because he can sense her in there, but being responsible because his fighters alongside of him do it. So he still bears responsibility, but he didn't pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. Love it. That's great. Everyone else dies, right? And we get that shot of her floating out in space when there's like all the moisture around her skin is frozen because it's the vacuum of freaking space. And she's just floating there for about a full second or two. And I was in the theater. I remember thinking, I think I'm okay with this. Like, I think that's good. Like, don't do like her body's exploded or whatever. Like, let her float off in a crystallized just peace and be done. And be done. I thought it was sad and beautiful, and then her hand twitched, and I literally cussed. Like, I said a swear word in the theater. I was like, I can't do this. Why? Yes. Like, I thought, again, I don't know if it was subverting expectation or what, but I hated it.
I think, I want to hear, Joey, I want to hear what your thoughts are, but for me, I agree, and I just think it looked bad. It looked cheesy. Like, I didn't like
it. Did.
It looked like Superman from 100%. Like the late 90s, like trying to fly in. Like you could see the wire and everything. It was so bad.
Yeah.
So the other, slight correction, I think the movie came out 2017, not 18. She died at the end of 16. I think it came out at the end of 2017. Because
it was almost a year.
Almost a year, because Rise of Skywalker was 2019. I believe Christmas 2019. So, because that was right before the whole dang world shut down. I remember the last thing I saw in the theater was Star Wars. And I'm like, not bad.
If this is the end of movies.
I'm glad we got to finish Star Wars. I'm like, yeah. So it looked bad. And, okay, she's got Force powers. But, again, it comes back to we've never seen her use them. It's a new trilogy. We could have had flashbacks and seen more of Luke and Han and her life and her training. Yeah, we get that later. But she somehow floats back, and then she's in a coma, and everybody else is dead, and it's like I agree, it could have been a very beautiful ending, but I think she passed after they had all this other stuff with her figured out, and the scene with Luke at the end, and they're like, oh well, that we can't just not have that emotional reunion just because she passed away.
True.
But it was poorly done. Like there could have been, I think they were just trying to use cool special effects, and they're like, she's gonna almost die. Just kidding. When she could have just been rocketed in the explosion like Poe and like slammed into a wall and then knocked unconscious.
Oh, are those her expectations? Would you mind if I subvert them?
I subvert them. Can I go down those?
Go right around him. So, and also when she pulls herself back in, I made reference to this with the bomber run, but Poe just runs up to the door and opens that sucker to get her. And I was like, excuse me? She's just floating. It's space out there. You can't just open the door. Like, what are you doing?
This movie has so many things. For such a high quality movie, it has so many things that they change the rules in its own movie multiple times.
Yeah.
Space is a vacuum. Space is
click.
not. Space is a vacuum. Space is not. It's like,
there's gravity in space. There's no gravity when Princess Leia is in space.
It bugs me, because I feel like they said, I think it's the whole thing is like, I don't think Rian Johnson loves Star Wars enough. I don't think he like respected it enough, because I think that was probably his answer if anybody brought that up. It's like, it's Star Wars. It's like, but you can't go too far. You know what I mean? Like, it still needs to be believable. You know, it's like those times of jumping the shark. Like, I always think about The Hobbit, the third one, when Legolas is jumping up rocks that are falling. That part, and I'm like, that's a part that's just like, that's not cool. That doesn't make any sense. Like, it's too much.
It's too much, right?
Yeah.
He's an elf. He's not Superman. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about the introduction to everyone's favorite character, Rose Tico?
Honestly,
because that happens like right after that, right? When everyone's freaking out and they're in the hold, and Finn's like, "I'm out of here."
Yeah, she's like, "No, you're not." I don't hate her. She is not my least favorite character. Yeah, actually,
I hate her.
He might she might be my second least favorite character.
Who's your least favorite?
But it's like my level of least favorite is like 100%. Admiral Holdo is the worst character in the whole movie.
Yeah, okay.
And then like at 50%. Is Rose. Okay. And then some others I don't like are under there. But like, it's a large margin that I absolutely hate that Admiral Holdo is in this movie. I felt like Rian Johnson just owed Laura Dern a favor. And she was like, if you ever get a Star Wars movie, you have to put me in it. And like a good role.
How do you feel about the color purple?
I promise. And that just feels... Yeah. How do you feel about being purple for some reason? Like, replace Admiral Holdo with Admiral Akbar.
Okay. But he died in Leia's explosion.
No. Okay. But don't freaking kill Admiral Akbar without even mentioning
Akbar went out like nothing. Like, why even have him?
Yeah.
And there was a moment of dialogue later, and they're like, and everyone else dead, so-and-so's dead, everybody's dead. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Akbar was in there? Oh my gosh, I forgot. He died.
And then the best we get is Poe being like, Holdo? Like that one battle that no one's ever heard of, seen, or read about? Holdo? And he's like, Wow.
Yeah. I wish Akbar went out better. But
yeah. Well, back to Rose. Like so the dialogue obviously is bad, but real world situations where people say awkward things, that's fine. But that doesn't really happen in Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, it's supposed to like be like when Princess Leia was talking to people in like the first couple of movies, she was obviously trained as a princess and stuff, but there was no like awkward things happening. Like the awkward language, it was still real worldy, but it didn't feel like teenage awkwardness. Like, I'm a girl.
Star Wars is a very
form of my life. Like that's
yeah.
Yeah, it is a little more formal. I mean, even Anakin being kind of a creeper and, you know, Attack of the Clones, like he wasn't that awkward.
What he said was awkward. But yeah, I would say
that was
everything delivered in what we know of Star Wars is said very formally. you know? So before we meet Rose, just one note I had, Luke goes in the cockpit and meets R2. And that scene gets me every time. And R2 is trying to get him to come back, and he pops the "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." And I'm like, it is such a, I would say, okay, it's definitely like trying to pull on our nostalgia, but I love it. I love that scene exists. It works for me every time. Yes. Watching Luke go into the cockpit is amazing.
Dude, thank you.
I almost
knocked my lightsaber off my table.
I thought there was like an animal that just
Jarvis, down boy,
destroy your setup, and you're like, no.
I think the biggest mistake these sequels made is they never had Luke, Han, and Leia in the cockpit of the Falcon. I think that's the number one misstep they made. Like, even just having those three characters together.
Yeah. With Luke entering the cockpit is my favorite shot of all three movies.
I don't like that they pushed the dice, because I feel like the dice were there in 77, but were never a thing. And I don't know why.
Yeah. But Luke was never like, hey, what are those
my dice,
gold things you got hanging there? He's like, they're
those are for
gambling.
Okay. So we talked about...
What's gambling? Innocent little farm boy. He did
gambling.
Yeah.
Also, okay, at the end, though, like the dice, those were the only thing he made physical, right? Like everything else in his vision, he wasn't actually he didn't affect the ground. His lightsaber wasn't there, but somehow the dice were physical. Like they were in Leia's hands.
So I find this interesting. I do think this is well done. He hands the dice, and that's when Leia looks at him as, I feel I know you're not actually here. She leaves the dice there because she knows that they are also not real, and they do disappear at the end. It's a small part, but they fade away as well.
I know they.
So that's.
Exactly. But I was like, how is she holding them? Like,
because Rian Johnson.
What I don't understand.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Because like when he embraces her and gives her a kiss, there's no sound. Like it looks like they don't quite touch because he's not there, and like there's nothing on the ground when he's walking on the salt. So anyway,
I was gonna say you skip over your own notes there,
but. Yeah.
Okay.
So can't bite.
Quickly, I think I just have everything caught up. So, Canto Bite. Let's jump in. Where you at?
Yeah.
So,
well, I have a note for the end because the whole scene during the movie, I'm like, this is exciting. This is new. After literally not even like the next movie, like when this movie is over, I'm like, well, that was stupid. So within a few minutes of liking it, you hate it. And I'm like, okay. However, there's a really dumb part, not a positive. At the end, they're riding the horse, whatever creature thing, right? Mm-hmm. They almost fall off a cliff and die. The horse barely does it. And you know what? They almost fall off a cliff and literally they're like, you know what we need to do? I'm going to die. It wasn't worth it. She frees the horse and goes, now it's worth it to die. And I'm like, you idiot. There's like 30 people looking for you. They're going to get their gambling horse back in like an hour. That horse can't go anywhere. I'm like, literally, there's nowhere for it to go. And you're like, I freed this horse. I'm like, you literally didn't. Everybody's looking for you. They're going to like, oh yeah, there's our horse. Let's get that back. Like you did nothing.
You're on an island.
Yeah, you did absolutely nothing. Like, how did you think? You're like, well, I guess it's worth it now. I saved one.
Here's my big rant about Rose.
Dude.
So Finn is all excited because he goes to Canto Bite, and this poor kid is a child soldier,
and he gambles.
He has been enslaved his whole life.
Yeah,
nothing good has happened. In the time he decided, I don't want to just kill people, I want out. That's his big move, right? He goes to this place. It's amazing. It's shiny. There's fun drinks. People are like beautiful people. And Rose is like, no, you have no idea the backs of the slaves that work here. Like, such a bummer. Here's my statement. I feel like Rose is the vegan you bring to a steakhouse that waited until you got to the steakhouse to tell you that they were vegan. Like, and you were like,
yep.
Wait, you don't have any vegan options?
Yeah, it's
here?
like,
I can't believe
tell me beforehand. But, like.
Yeah.
Yes. But her omission, she completely disregards the fact that he is
way
a child
harder life
soldier.
than you.
Yeah,
And that he has experienced, that he has experienced the horrors. Yes, the horrors of war, killing people, training his whole life to kill people, and then she goes, "Hey, this is really bad too." Look
closer.
Her not acknowledging his past makes what she has to say something I don't care about, because she could also have a compelling thing, right? Like her whole planet, her whole family, like,
or she
ravaged by the Empire, like the New Order machine, and she's like, she could have said, just like you, my life was ruined, and these people are responsible, because there's a really quick, easy connection from the rich people who manufacture weapons to the child soldiers they need to operate those weapons, and the children who are home to the resources where those weapons are made. This is a really easy triangle to make, but they don't make that
the
connection.
Empire has done them both really dirty, and they can't connect about that. But like for some reason, and also as a moviegoer, I'm never going to care about CG animals. I'm sorry. It's just like you can try, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like you have to, that whole movie was built up to that. Well, okay, so I will care about CG, but you have to create that. You can't just be like, look at that CG horse getting whipped. I'm like, I don't care about, I don't know that horse. You just shout it in my face.
Yeah, similarly, the Porgs, when the Porgs have the little scream cameo when Chewbacca flies the Falcon in, I'm like, who literally cares about why am I excited to see a Porg? Why are you giving me a close-up?
Because Chewie ate a Porg earlier, felt bad about it, and now he's all their friends.
He should have. He's lived literally like 200 years eating meat, and now he feels bad.
Yeah.
An animal's never been cute before. I've only ever seen
it like Chewie literally had killed a Porg, like defeathered it, roasted it, and then he felt bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay. Yeah. I don't know.
Total misconnection.
So funny. Anyway,
my note is literally, Rose is stupid. That's at the end of the Canto Bite. I'm like, you let the horse go, and I said, Rose is stupid.
Yeah,
character.
That whole off-planet Canto Bite thing is a huge miss for me. I think it's one of those switch flip moments that we talk about in this movie, where this movie is this thing, and then it flips back to, no, this movie it's not that movie at all. It's this movie over here. No, it's not that movie anymore. It's this kind of movie. And just the fact that they're talking with Maz Kanata or whatever her name is, and
that's her twin sister. She has the dual swords.
What's her name?
Maz Kanata.
Maz Kanata.
Maz Katana is better though.
Maz Katana.
Also, like, for some reason, her sister has a different last name. Same first name, but that could be solid.
Maz is the surname. Okay, it's the surname.
Maz, yes. Katana Kama Maz. I thought getting a hold of her was a bit of a stretch, but I was like, okay, maybe it's a connection you have now. And then when she was like, I know for a fact, for some reason, that this codebreaker is currently, as we speak,
a specific
at a
pin
casino
on his shirt
off planet. Like, I know what he's wearing. Are you kidding me?
But I can't give you his phone number, and I can't call him for you. You have to go down yourself.
Because I'm shooting him up or whatever. So I thought it was
a union dispute. Okay, it was very important. It was so stupid.
I thought
that
like,
reason was stupid.
The last of the rebellion.
Yes, I thought it was a weak reason.
This should be priority, right?
Right. Yes, and once she said you have to go off planet, and they were like, Canto Bite. I was like, they're gonna use fuel to
that you just told me was so important. This fuel is so important.
Yep.
Well, fill it up,
and you're just gonna waste it.
They're gonna hyperspace jump secretly to Canto Bite, and waste a whole day. Let's be generous and say that there's no time dilation or anything like weird, crazy science stuff, because it's Star Wars, right? You're going to waste an entire day going off planet to find someone who can get you into the dreadnought. Super unnecessary portion of the story. I would have rather that they just snuck
And I don't want to be this guy.
like just be like, oh, we have someone in our lockup, in our hold, like, or something like, or attention everyone, is there any really good hackers in here? And someone from the back goes, oh, I could do it, like
Sith magic.
and I would have rather like a cat and mouse game. I would have wanted them to get to the ship
ginormous
first.
dreadnought, because the dreadnought's huge, man. It's bigger than the Executor, I think. Like, it's ginormous.
All that like 40 minutes, just be on the dreadnought.
I also like, I don't want to be this guy because I don't like finding plot holes, because I'm like, it's Star Wars. I want to suspend my disbelief. But yeah, if you can just take off in a ship with a couple people and it can get away, why aren't you doing that to everyone? Like, they're chasing us. Oh, yeah. Finn and Rose just flew away. Why don't we just like get Leia off on a ship? Like the leadership, like separate. If we're really gonna like, this is the last of the Resistance, we need to separate. Like,
so that goes to like when they do keep flashing back and forth. Like, my note was, why does no one tell anyone the plan? Like, we already talked about no one tells Poe the plan, and then Poe finds another plan, and he's supposed to be this great leader, and suddenly he's a stuck-up little jerk, and he's like, no, I'm not going to tell you my plan. Now we're both going to be doing things to help each other but not know about it. I was like, why? Like, if you feel like you need to, like, you're being slighted and you're trying to show you're a good soldier, tell them your plan.
Yeah.
So then you can at least, they can be like, well, that's stupid, but at least we know what's happening. Like,
it feels like they created Holdo to be hated because she just won't listen to anything. And you're like, this isn't how life works. Like, people talk to each other.
Oh, Holdo, are we there yet?
Not yet.
Disparage.
We got to go a little bit longer, boys. We got to go a little bit longer.
She sucks.
Dude, she's the worst, man. There's so many things that could have been done. All right, Heath, I got to stop talking.
You got to hold, buddy.
We do. Do you have a force connection between Rey and Kylo?
I skipped that, actually. I'm trying to keep it
on your notes there.
That's continuing.
Oh, really? That I'm sorry. That popped up for me, and I really, you mentioned this already. I really liked the force connection aspect. Just not knowing, like, putting aside the plot twist towards the end about why they're being connected, but just that they are connected.
Yeah.
For some reason, deepens the questions that I have, and I really liked that. Like, Kylo Ren is such a cool character. Adam Driver does a great job. Again, he's up there with Andy Serkis. I have a list of top actors in Star Wars, and he's up there. He just does great with Kylo Ren.
He's also plays another character, obviously, in Andor. And I'm like, how cool is that you have someone that plays two characters, and they're both not like side characters, like a stormtrooper here and there. It's like two main people played by the same actor. I'm like, that is so cool. And as soon as that episode of Andor aired, everyone's like, he turns into Snoke. This is how it is. I'm like,
my favorite Snoke line
come
is,
on, man.
I can't swim. Okay. So I found this really interesting. So the guy, as the chase is going on,
I dare you to turn on your lightsaber. Oh, come on. Well, it was up on your chin.
Crew?
Yes.
I know. Have you watched Skeleton Crew?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if I was curious if this bothered you guys, but he says Godspeed rebels when this ship is destroyed. Does that bother you guys at all? Like, shouldn't have been Force. So the chase when it's going on and like the lead ships are falling behind. This one guy's like, all the crew is gone. Godspeed rebels.
Oh yeah, and he's like sitting there, everything's exploding. Yeah, that was again not Star Wars-y. She should have said, "May the Force be with you." Like, I feel like that's obvious. Like, "May the Force be with you, rebels," and they die. It's like Godspeed. Like,
it feels like Han Solo on Hoth,
which
then I'll see you when
George Lucas hated.
Like there's a religious system to establish the
which is funny. It's like, I love the line. I think same thing. Godspeed sounds good. So I would say like that doesn't really make sense if you think about it in the context of the movie, but it's like it sounds good, and especially if it was set in the Empire, I'm
generic
that
enough.
kind of thing. But okay, so my quick notes are Finn and Rose, DJ, father years, armor is dumb. I hate the armor on Canto Bight, like the helmet, like the security guards. It's like this. It looks like a construction helmet with like a little bit of like a fan out, and like the chin strap, and they've got like half mini tapes. I just think it looks dumb. I just think it looks cheap, and it's funny because I think it would be the opposite. I think Canto Bight security should have the most intense armor we've ever seen, because it's like this place is so rich. Like this should be like they have like Iron Man suits kind of stuff. You know, like I don't know. It just didn't feel. Yeah,
the half capes look really weird.
They should have droids, you know, like more droid security, like K2s or something like that, you know.
Dude, the droid security on Skeleton Crew would have done really well on that. Because droids can't steal. Like, you can program.
Right, and those ones from Skeleton Crew look like sleek and modern. And it's like, oh, those can be rich casino droids. Like,
okay,
absolutely.
So we're keeping... so Luke, I want to say this. So we're back with the Force time, the mirror one, where she's like, I didn't see anything. And she's like, you're not alone. So like, this is the Force time, the last Force time. Luke stumbles upon them kissing. No, they're just holding hands. But it's basically, that's the equivalent. Right? That's what they say, you know? I find it really interesting. So I have read, Joey made a joke about this on Monday, the Last Jedi novelization, which I have read, and it makes this scene so much better, because when Luke goes, he touches the stone, and he's like, Leia, he connects with Leia. In the book, he has inner dialogue, and he goes, enough is enough. It's time. I need to, like, let's get Rey. Let's go on the Falcon. Let's go back and with Leia. Like, he's going to, like, fight the good fight. Like, this is the hero we've been waiting for. But we don't get any of that, because all we see is Luke bust into the room, be like, that's Kylo. And then they have a stupid stick fight. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, I wish I would have heard that, because we never heard Luke say at any point, I'm going to go back with you. Or like, you know what, you're right. And I'm like, yeah.
Surprise reveal. Was that after the mirror scene, right? So I think that's what this note was. I think it spell corrected it into a different word. It says the iron scene. So I don't think that's what that was.
Oh, the clothes iron that drops down.
Yes. No, it was that. Okay, it's not a mystery. It actually is the iron. So they have the iron, and it looks really cool until you realize, again, like, I think the whole point was to subvert expectations. Yeah. Because literally, it's like that scene in Empire when you're watching, like, the thing come down and you see Vader without a helmet. You're like, oh my gosh, this is sick. And it's like trying to set it up like some big reveal. Like, what are we going to see? Snoke do something? And it's like, ironing my clothes. I'm like, are you serious? Like, that was
just subverting expectations in the worst way.
Yeah, that was exactly what that was. Subverting expectations just because you want to, and it doesn't. It's
got a lot of the grit out of it. Like, Jabba's palace, especially when you're younger, is like such like a scary place. Like, there's like, what is in here? And like, you're not afraid for 1 second aboard Snoke's ship. Like, there's no. I think Star Wars always vaguely touches horror. Like, when Leia is, I always talk about this scene, is like when Leia is on the Falcon in Empire Strikes Back, and they don't know it, but they're inside like the worm, and she's like, the Gundarks are like flying, and like there's no music, there's no sound. She's like, yep, and it's like a jump scare. Like, that is a perfect horror movie scene.
Yeah,
and it's just like a little 5-second thing, you know. But I think Star Wars is supposed to just kind of like just touch like scary a little bit, just a little, you know.
Yeah, totally agree. With the final scene on those islands with Luke, I think this is a positive that they tried to do. Rian Johnson tried to do with the story. You get a really good sense of the theme of Rey's like journey at this point, and it's become super obvious that Rey is in this weird, like, I don't know myself, like floating area, And because of that, she's pulled in cool ways between light and dark, good and evil. And I wrote down peace and violence. So she's found Luke Skywalker, peace, like the goodness. And then as soon as she finds goodness, the Force connects her to Kylo Ren, violence. And it feels like in that moment, you don't know why they're connected. It feels like in that moment that the Force is trying to balance her out. And say on one end, you have Luke Skywalker, who tried to do the light side of the Force full bore. And on the other end, you have the reaction to Luke being Kylo Ren, who went full bore the other way. And you have to be the mediator between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker. And I was like really interested in that. I was like, this could be amazing because the Force doesn't want her to be Luke and it doesn't want her to be Kylo Ren. She's constantly pulled between violence and peace. And I just wish that was a theme that actually he followed through on.
Right. It's like they could have reconciled, you know, she could have been the mediator.
Oh, yeah.
That could have been really cool.
But I think it's cool too because even later on in the throne room, Snoke's like, I told Kylo Ren that someone from the light side would rise up. Like the idea of the Force is spinning out people to like to bring balance, I think is such a cool thought.
Yes.
You know, and it's just like it's not really talked about anymore.
But that doesn't exist in the movie where Finn and Rose go and have a weird little like PETA adventure with rabbit horses at a casino island. Like those aren't the same movie.
Right. So how does Rey get into, so they get in the Falcon and they take off, right? And then is there like a shuttle or like this little escape pod in the Falcon that gets launched? Is that what
apparently?
Because that was never a thing.
Yeah. She gets in like lightsaber and just she's like, okay, Chewie, drop me out of light speed, like stop, drop me out, and then zoom away.
So once
you can
again,
make rope
ship
entrance
can just,
later,
like,
apparently.
jump in front of this ship and then go away and will be tracked. It's just
because because they're only.
Why didn't
trapped
Leia get on any of
large
the other ships? Like this
Dude.
is my whole issue.
Literally, like radar
That's actually Rey's
was
full name.
invented in the 1950s on our planet.
That's her full name.
Radar.
At the end of the
Okay.
Rise of Skywalker, what's your name?
So,
Rey.
Did
Radar.
Luke tell Rey? Was this before she got on the Falcon and went to the ship? He said that Vader was created
that was
trained by a Jedi Master. Didn't Luke say that? Was that okay? But like that doesn't make any sense, right? I guess from a certain point of view. But Darth Vader was not created by a Jedi Master or trained. He was trained by Jedi Masters, but Vader wasn't.
Luke is such a jerk to the Jedi, and he's like, the history of the Jedi is failure. And he says, this is another reason Rian Johnson did not do his homework. He's like, at the height of their power, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise and wipe them out. The Jedi at the time of the Attack of the Clones was like, there's only 10,000 of us left in the galaxy. They are like dying off. They are on the back foot the whole prequel trilogy. And I'm like, that's why they were so weak and grasping at power. And like Mace Windu is like, the only way we can stop this is if we go kill Palpatine right now. And it's just like,
Mace Windu is talking with Yoda, and he's like, should we tell the Senate that our connection to the Force isn't what it used to be? And Yoda goes,
no.
Yoda.
No, that's good.
Okay, sorry, I derailed
it early.
But, so
no, that's good. That's good.
I'm like, I forgot about that line. I'm like, I don't think that made any sense.
It's just,
but
it is, and it's just like, okay, Luke wasn't there, but he should know. And it's just like, it feels like he's casting away all of his love for Yoda and Obi-Wan, and
he's also talking about Vader like he's some crazy person. Like that was your dad who you redeemed. Why are you worried about creating an evil person that you literally redeemed that person? And you're like, he's the worst. I'm like,
because if anyone knows, it's Luke. If Kylo Ren, if he had found out that when he found out that Kylo Ren was like dipping his toes in the dark side, he could be like, hey, brother, I know a guy who dove headfirst into the dark side, and he was redeemed. So whatever you're feeling right now, it is not what makes you who you are. Like, he could have done that stuff.
Yeah, doesn't Luke feel like the perfect person to bring someone back from the dark side? And he was probably, he was probably the only person that wouldn't be freaked out by that, because he's like, I've seen this before. No one is too far gone, you know? And instead he's just like,
Right.
Yes. If Vader wasn't too far gone, then no one's too far
Dude, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But then, so Rey gets into the ship, and the whole Canto Bight, which we already talked about, is happening kind of at the same time. And then they get out of there. But great point. The fight, the whole Snoke thing when Rey's brought there, I like that. I like that a lot. Like, I thought that was a cool throne room scene. Yes, question or disagreement.
Okay. Not a question. Agreement. The first time I saw it in theaters, I hated its guts. That fight scene.
Okay.
On every time I rewatch it, I've probably seen this movie 4 times now, but every time I rewatch it, I like that scene more.
Mm-hmm.
The only qualm I have with it is that first shot when the fight begins, and there are like 4 fighting stunt guys who just spin around and waste time.
Yes.
So they did that part wasn't choreographed well, but the rest so entertaining, so cool.
The cool deaths, the lightsaber behind the head, super cool, and like their whole so knowing the future, you see Rey does like the stabbing maneuvers, and the only other person that ever does that is Palpatine that we see. He's the only person that does a stab. So that's like showing...
I wish that was forethought.
I know, right? It's like, I know that wasn't planned, but they're like, oh, I'm so glad we made her do that. Now we have this connection,
right?
But the scene was actiony. It was a cool fight. Besides some of the choreography was a little off, but I like how they killed Snoke. That was a huge surprise. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, Kylo's actually going to be kind of good. Like, Rey somehow did it. She's starting to turn him. They're still good in him. This is cool. Where's this going to go? And then it obviously doesn't go the way you think, of course, like everything in this movie. But the whole 20 minutes there was really entertaining. And
I think that definitely is one of the best scenes of the movie. And I think that's the qualm, is the stunt work. I feel like it was subpar. Like, there's a lot of people who do breakdowns of like, do you see this guy waiting to attack Kylo Ren until he's done? And it's just like, I think it goes back to those people that like didn't care enough to really rehearse that scene, which that's crazy. Like, what was it? 6 people, 8 Praetorian guards, 6 on 2.
Yeah, there's 6 guys,
6 of them.
And
Kylo, like, that's a huge fight. I don't even know if you could do that well, but it's not, they didn't do it enough, I think, to make it look perfect. But it still looks incredible. So I would just like, I don't care that you can see stunt people waiting sometimes, because I don't find it distracting, and it looks really cool.
It's probably my favorite part of the movie. Like, as far as like the whole, like the Luke scene on the Falcon is awesome. That's got nostalgia factor and like makes you feel good. But this, I think, overall is like 5 to 10 minutes of the movie. Like, as a part, I just enjoy it. Like, every time if that scene comes on and somehow someone else is watching the movie, I'll stop and watch it. I don't care what's going on. Like, I've got 10 minutes worth of time. Like, I'll do that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good distinguishment. The Luke and the Falcon might be my favorite shot, but I don't think it's my favorite thing that happened. That scene in the throne room is up there. Question for you guys on your notes.
That's actually what I was going to say. We did skip that, but we can bring that up.
I thought that was after. I thought that was kind of happening the same time as the Haldo stuff, and they fought, wasn't it?
She like leaves,
right after,
and then he's
leaves.
like,
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I love. Yoda shows up. I think the music, once again, is just like, it's perfect. It hits me when he says that the burden of all masters is they grow. We are what they grow beyond, is what he says. I just think that's such a cool thing. Like, especially being a parent, being like, I hope that my kid is better than I am. Like, I hope he's better than I am. And I think that's a cool sign.
I also think Yoda was totally messing with him when he burned down the tree, because he knew Rey already took the books.
She already That was a weird movie to me. Like, I think you're right, but he's just like, she already possesses it. And like, by that, I mean literally, because she already took the book. So you're trying to, like,
Yeah.
it felt
She
weird.
literally was here like 10 minutes ago, dude. I mean, we're...
Yeah, you just missed her. So this was, oh, excuse me. This was something that I noticed. Oh, I can't find it. That the Yoda comment of page turners, they are not, was also, I was like, okay, buddy, none of you, Luke is probably the only one who has even seen
Having a book in general, I feel like is...
Rey is the second one. Yes. Rey is the only other person in this whole universe that has seen a book before. And Yoda's going to make a page turners. I was like, come on.
Like using some idioms that don't really exist in the world.
Right.
You're like,
Well,
pages?
that
Ryan
pulled me
Johnson
out of
doesn't
it.
do his homework. They shouldn't have been books. They should have been... Or...
Data pads.
Yeah, I'll take either of those.
Holocrons.
Yeah, they should have done. They should have been Jedi holocrons.
No. Get this out of here.
No.
So yeah, we can catch up a little bit. So yeah, the throne room stuff. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm still on this Yoda Luke thing. I think I'm on an anti-Yoda kick right now.
Wow. You know what?
Um,
Lucky I don't
so
turn my camera so you can see my Yoda poster.
I know, there he is. He's staring at me. I deserve this the Yoda stare. So Luke being an emotional character is, I'm going back to the original trilogy. Luke is emotionally, maybe not intelligent, but emotionally aware, right? Yoda is not. And Heath and I have talked about this a little bit on the pod last week, I think. And that's a strength that Luke has, is that he, like, search your feelings is a phrase that comes up for him, right? Mm-hmm. Search your feelings, Father. I know there is good in you, like that kind of stuff. Don't push away the emotional side of who we are. This character is completely shut off from that, unfortunately. And in that sense, he becomes a Yoda character, which is a huge bummer, because then Yoda shows up and he's like, our apprentices are what they are. We are, what was the quote?
We are what they grow beyond.
We are what they grow beyond. Yoda, you're talking to your apprentice.
Literally hiding out on a
same
planet.
exact space as you. And I want to read this. I want to read this for you. A buddy sent this to me.
Okay, let's hear it.
And see what your reactions are. The worst Star Wars sequel ever. They take a beloved character who's the last living Jedi Master, powerful enough to battle the Emperor, but now he's just this crazy weirdo on a remote planet acting like a freak, eating weird foods, tossing weapons around like a joke. Then, after all his whining, he's like, fine, I'll train you in the Force a little. But after only days of training, his apprentice runs away to go fight the villain. And instead of a cool action death, this legendary Jedi Master just dies at home and disappears. The three heroes all fail. They absolutely ruined the great Yoda. And that's why the worst sequel ever is Empire Strikes Back. But I read that and I was like, oh, why? This is my question. Why does it work for Yoda? Why does this not work for Luke? Because that's the same character, the same beats, the same things happen, different directors, different comedy stuff.
Because we don't know anything about Yoda at that point.
Exactly.
And Luke Skywalker, we've got all kinds of stuff about him, and we got the prequels, which you learn more about Yoda, but then you learn about Anakin and Vader, and like it builds, and then you got this thing. You're like, Luke's already past this. Yoda has always been kind of a by the book. Like we have to. His Jedi style was detachment, right? And he was like, you can't do anything. And Qui-Gon Jinn was more like, of the living force, and like you can love people and whatever. Yes, that's a great lightsaber. It's my favorite one. So it's it's just, I think like that's always how Yoda was, and it wasn't how Luke was. And then Luke changed.
Like, why did he become Yoda?
That's a great observation.
Yeah,
and I think some differences, which I wish Luke had lived, so Rey could have gone back and actually trained. But I think Yoda still had wisdom during that. War does not make one great. Like, what were you looking for? he still had wisdom in his galaxy.
Right.
And then he actually trained Luke, not these 3 lessons about why Jedi suck. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but like floating around.
They did handstands.
Like, he was there for a while, you know? So I don't know. I do see that as a difference. I need to think on that more because that's a really good point. Like, but I think we already know Luke is the hero that's given up. And then, yeah, honestly, I would say the prequels do Yoda dirty because it does seem like he's just like, I tried to fight the Emperor and I gave up. When I watched The Empire Strikes Back for the first time, I assumed this Jedi Master lives there and has always lived there. That's the crazy 900-year-old Jedi that people go to for wisdom. You know, he's not. I never viewed Yoda as a corporate, city boy, teaching every single Jedi. Like I just never felt that way. And I still love the prequels, but I think that's also, yeah, you're right. Especially with the prequels, it is a lot closer to Luke than I think any of us would like. Okay, so yeah,
So our favorite moment, the Haldo maneuver.
Very close.
I think
So,
finally there.
I do have a trivia game later for you guys coming up, but here's a little teaser. Do you guys know the name of the cruiser that Leia and Poe are on? It's a fun one. It's a Rogue One reference.
Rogue One.
Rogue 2.
It's
Scarif.
What is it? Hold on. It was, so it's not
the main ship.
It's the cruiser, right?
Like
It's not the frigate.
one that Leia and Poe and Hulk.
Gosh, I feel like I should know that. So I'm thinking the frigate Redemption, but that's the big medical bay thing. That's not that one. And I don't
Guys
know
give
what
up?
they called their cruiser.
It's the Radish.
The Airso.
The Radish.
Not the Radish. The Radish.
Not the Radish.
Yep.
The Radish.
That's the.
Why is that a Rogue One reference?
That's the end of Rogue One. That's Akbar's.
General Radish.
The guy over Akbar, General Radish. Fun.
Oh, got it. Okay. Cool.
So
Wow, I
the
never knew that.
Codebreaker,
Good stuff.
that whole thing doesn't fly. I wrote down maybe the Codebreaker was the friends we made along the way.
No.
I just no. It's just like it failed. It didn't work. And what did we learn? That like, hey Finn, you've had a super hard life. You should realize that the galaxy sucks more than you thought it did. And some people who make weapons sell to both sides. Like that kind of feels like it. And I guess I feel like Finn needed, where he started off, he was like, I'm not for the rebellion. I'm just here to save Rey. And then by the end, he's like, I want to fight for the rebellion. But where we see those 2 points are on the Radis and then on Crate. Like the middle, how is the middle part, the father chase, teaching him he should fight for the rebellion? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Right. So that's all I've got there. So we've got the end coming up here. So Luke's. Oh yeah. So yeah, we got the Luke and Kylo fight is where my notes take me.
So we missed the Haldo maneuver, our favorite part. Okay, you can't skip over. Okay, how awesome Haldo is. So before, Andrew's probably got a very eloquent rant about this because it's his least favorite character. So all I will say is the Haldo maneuver, she didn't make it seem like it was a sudden realization. It was like, oh, I know, I can do this as an emergency plan. I'm like, you literally had 30 other ships take a droid, take a stupid C-3PO droid, who we know can pilot because he drove Luke's land speeder, right? Protocol droids can drive. We see him in prequels too. It's like, have him turn the useless transport around and hyperspace right into the Dreadnought at the very first 2 minutes of the chase. Okay, if you know this works,
once again, they have 3 other ships when they start. Get everyone on those other ships because Haldo was not on the Radis. She was on another lead ship. So apparently they can go between them just fine. It's like,
why did they even have to do the bombing run? If they could have done that, they could have just taken one transport
and
with a robot.
If that works, if you can
that's
light speed and hit stuff, then you don't need to do that star. Light speed doesn't really work because they always are like, it's like ripping space to go through. You know what I mean? So like, how does that even work? But then it's also like, if that's true, then why aren't we using that as the main weapon? It's like, okay, and then we shoot this, and we shoot a light speed attack. Like, I don't know.
It's a point in the fictional universe where if you do this, you cannot go back from it because it is so overpowered. Mm-hmm. Like, you thought it was a cool send-off for a character that turns out no one cares about. It looked really cool, but
I did like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Like,
once you like, it was so cool that how everything went quiet, the light went like that, everything shattered. Really cool effect. I really liked it, but right.
You do have to ask, like, why hasn't anybody done this before, and why should we stop?
Right. That's why they made some novels about like a hyperspace explosion in the High Republic era. Basically, there was pirates using hyperspace routes, and they blocked the ship and exploded. So all these pieces of debris are flying in at light speed and like hitting planets and obliterating them. So that's like their big concern. So then they actually created hyperspace lanes and routes that you could only go in a certain spot. It's a whole thing, but like they actually took this idea and then wrote a book in the prequels about it and said, yeah, that would be cool if like somebody did that. So it's like,
cool.
It's clearly like some type of war crime. Like, people know you can't do it. But again, you're fighting an evil empire that just killed billions of people in multiple solar systems. And you're like, yeah, we should only use this as
especially when it's a complete military.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I feel like that's when you can make an exception. But.
Yes. So the only, like, what if something would pass, right? And then they just launched a shuttle piloted by a droid to another planet and it blew up that planet. But like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I feel like you could coordinate it and like, hey, if you like, just go to this planet, and if there's anything in your way, like this giant ship, just go through that. It'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. My phrase, because I only have one phrase left for Holdo, is just my thoughts watching. Oh, so they load up all the transports. We can get away. Cool. Too bad it's literally Holdo's fault that it doesn't work out, and I don't blame Poe.
Like, this was a terrible plan
in any way.
I don't get why Holdo didn't tell him the plan. I don't. Yeah, it's such a simple plan.
It's such a simple
plan. Why
plan.
did they hide it? That's the whole reason he stages a coup. Like a coup.
Again, it was all just like, okay, you did something bad, you're demoted, we're not going to tell you anymore. Like, it makes no sense.
And then cool in the
her
turn
with us. Like, and then also, why does Leia stun him? It's just like, he was putting his gun out. He's like, well, obviously I'm going to listen to you. And she's like, still shoots him for some reason. And then Holdo's like, yeah, you got your handful with that one. What'd she say? Like, I like him. No, you don't.
I like him.
You don't. Anything. And in your eyes, he failed. But in our eyes, he was right the whole time. That was a terrible plan, and it failed. Also, so DJ, I forgot to mention this. Yeah. DJ betrays them. How does he know? How does he know they're escaping little ships?
So
he's like, that's the whole reason they know that there's little things. Maybe I missed it, but maybe when they called Poe was like, "This is the plan." But I was
overheard.
But it's just still, it's like,
I think he
really
overheard.
I remember on my first watch, I was even confused how he even had an opportunity to betray them. And on this rewatch, I noticed he had like one line.
Got caught.
Like, hey, when they locked us up, I immediately betrayed you. Like, just now I betrayed you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a good point.
And I also don't think that's
him having any information.
The Empire.
Well, also
the First Order is they would just be like, tell us.
No, they just like Joey said,
right,
there's billions of people. Why do they care about you? Why are you alive?
Yeah, thanks for giving us the rebels. He literally didn't give you the rebels. He just cut a deal because he's like, oh yeah, I totally was trying to bring these people to you. No, you weren't. You're trying to make some money. And then you're just, So, also, weird plot hole. How did Rey get back into the Falcon?
Yeah, I thought that too. Later. They never show
the whole ship blow up. They said she took Snoke's shuttle. But then, so let me get this straight. She takes Snoke's shuttle
to meet
hyperspace
Chewie.
Is back to wherever Chewie is, gets out of there, and then they somehow dock middle of space, and then they fly back, and they
where was
even
the spacewalk?
Like, what? And yeah, I'm like, so they either landed on a planet or they did it midair and they just left Snoke's frigate somewhere. They didn't even bring that into battle.
No.
I'm like, why are you in the Falcon right now? I don't understand. And then
That's so funny. I never caught that.
Luke, obviously, you think he showed up. And so at first you're like, how did he get here so fast? But obviously we know why. But I'm like, how did she get in the Falcon? Suddenly she's in the Falcon. I'm like,
1 second. Joey, I've got... Oh,
and
it's gone. There was a loud hissing on your side for something. Yeah, but it just stopped. So we're all good.
on mine?
Okay. So let's wrap up here. I still want to do trivia, but let's just ending thoughts. Do you guys have anything about the Kylo fight? The nonsense that was?
Okay, I have a couple quick things. I'll just do rapid fire my last few takes because I know we gotta wrap it up. So, number one on the hot takes: why did they drop the cannon so far away? I mean, it's just like Hoth all over again. Like, dude, you like literally have all these ships, and you're like, let's just put it a mile away and slowly walk towards the door. Like, okay, it builds a suspense. It's a callback to Hoth, but it was obviously stupid.
Which in Empire they were like. It's they had to land outside the shield.
Yes, in Empire, they also didn't know exactly where the base was. They knew where the shield generator was and knew it was close, and they had to land outside of it. This is literally an old abandoned base, and they're like, let's just land a couple clicks outside, just in case. They got a big defense. And then the Rose's sacrifice.
That Joey, do you remember that time when I saved your life by hitting you with my car?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, and then somehow I wasn't injured, but you almost died. I remember that. Remember? Yeah, I'm like, okay, so she's deathly ill or wounded now. Finn is almost fine. Literally, they got in a crazy sideswipe. Okay, but whatever. And then he drags her all the way back without being obliterated and calls for a medic. And then we talked about the Luke thing, how the dice already, and they basically said at the end, the rebellion is reborn. And I will not be the last Jedi. And I'm like, so the whole title's subverting my expectation too, isn't it? The whole title.
Your expectations would be a shame if somebody subverted them.
And then my very last thought was at the end when she had to use the Force to rip them off. Like one or two things with that. One, why didn't they just evacuate right away? They literally shut the door and then they're like waiting until it's about to break down to be like, oh shoot, we should leave. Crap, what do we do? Like they didn't think of finding an exit right away. Like they knew they were walking into that. And then two, why does Rey use the Force when she's got the Falcon right there and she could just blow a hole in the side of the thing? Like she's like, I need to be strong enough to lift the rocks. I'm like, you have laser cannons right there, man. Doesn't make sense.
Actually, her laser cannons were chopped off when they turned sideways into the tunnel.
The quad was. You're absolutely right. That is.
Gotcha.
They don't have any other cannons on the oh my gosh, Death Star. Jeez,
I think they shoot. Right? No, they shoot something forward in Return of the Jedi. But you're right because it's got the two quads. So maybe both of them got knocked down because we saw one. Also, like I like the fact that they have fun with this movie. They're like, yeah, let's go, like woo. But then like Rey mid-war, it's like I like this. Like it feels like okay, but the stakes are really high right now. Like. Your friends are about to die. Like, right. I get it when the battle hasn't started and Poe is trying to make jokes. Like I said, I still think that even went too far. But especially like Rey mid-battle, like there's only 100 of us left. We're dying off. We're gonna die.
That's a comment for the beginning of the first movie, the Force Awakens. Like she just gets in the Falcon. Whoa, right. This is fun. That's an appropriate time to have that comment.
Yeah,
at the climax of the end.
You're in a street chase for the first time.
Dead.
Like when they're like the ships and they're being chased by two TIE fighters, like like dogfight. Yeah,
a dogfight.
Yeah,
cat fight.
Goldfish fight. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. All right, Andrew, final thoughts. What you got?
Yeah, so bullet points. I love Snoke a ton. However, where does he come from? Who is he? What is he, and why is he?
You thought
so
it too,
strong?
didn't you, Joey?
Because
where does he go? Where does he come from? I saw Joey's eyes like, oh, get up, you got my Snoke. I've been married long time, Luke.
Night Snoke.
Did we just write a parody?
Wow.
Most impressive.
Impressive. Because Kylo, in that first Force time that they have, he goes, "Are you doing this?" "No. The exertion would kill you." "Okay, got it." So this is something the Force does. That same exertion, not same, similar, super similar exertion, kills Luke, but Force connecting two different people across an entire galaxy does not kill Snoke. Should we learn more about him? No. Next one. Akbar should have replaced Holdo in every sequence and every scene. She should not exist. It should have been Akbar, and that hyperspace attack at the end would have been even cooler because he could turn the ship around, and they'd go,
It's a
"What
trap.
is he doing?" And someone from down below will be like, "He's activating his hyperspace," and he'll go, "What is this?" And then Akbar goes, "It's a trap,"
And then he adds, he adds the MF, and it's a trap MF for that
because they get one.
And then the Beastie Boys soundtrack starts hitting.
You're right.
We need to cut that.
That'd be so tight.
Oh, that'd be great.
Luke ends his fight with Ren by changing his mind that the Jedi shouldn't end, and that doesn't make sense to me. That we weren't carried along into that journey. I wish that Luke would have stuck around as a Force ghost into the next movie to torment Kylo Ren like he threatened, because he said, "You strike me down and I will remain with you." And I was like, please do it. That would have been a really good pull to the light side to have that, like, Luke tempting him in the next movie. I'll end on a positive note. When Luke died, he saw a vision of the two Tatooine sons. I liked that.
I'll do mine real quick, and then we'll do some trivia. We can do this real quick. We'll bust it out.
Great.
So I love all the Rey Kylo stuff. I think Luke is not Luke. He's Jake Skywalker. I love Finn, but I hate the Finn Rose storyline. It doesn't lead anywhere. And I love Poe, but I don't like the Holdo Poe stuff. It just doesn't make sense. Like, there's too much negative in all of this stuff. But I think there's some really great scenes. I think you're right. I think all the Rey Kylo stuff, like after the throne room, I think is some of the best acting in the film. When Rey's was like, there's still time to save them, and she looks at him and she just knows, and he goes, "We can let go of the past." It's like, don't do this. Like, no, you're still holding on. Let go. Like, it's such a good scene. Like literally the pulling of the light in the dark. So good. It's Star Wars. I still like it. It's not boring, which I feel like we're getting some boring Star Wars. I love Skeleton Crew. I love Andor, but we are getting some boring Star Wars. I know, Andrew, my boy, you love The Acolyte, but I thought it was dull.
I love it so much.
All right. So fun talking about The Last Jedi. It's great to talk about. I'll give it that. So now I've got a trivia question for you boys. You up for this? Oh, no.
I hope so. I forgot the first one.
So I've got like 15 questions. We're just gonna, there's no timer, but just like say, I don't know. Just say it as soon as you can.
I don't know. You said
Nice.
Okay.
1 point for
what
Joey.
for me? All right, there were 16
I tricked
questions
you.
actually.
What is the name of the Wookiee home?
Kashyyyk.
Andor.
1 point for Joey.
Okay, I'm on a bad start.
Wait, is it okay? Is it like first, like
Yeah. Let's do
whoever,
fast.
do we-
Let's do fast.
Yeah,
Whoever
that's
says
how
it
they call
first.
it.
okay?
Or correct.
Okay.
Like if you say it first and you're still wrong. Yeah.
Or like me.
We'll workshop
I'm
trivia,
wrong.
how we play trivia after this. But which character says the line,
Yeah.
"So this is how liberty dies," with thunderous applause?
Padme Amidala.
What is the name of the pod racing circuit where Anakin Skywalker competes in The Phantom Menace?
Oh, something. What is it? Punta something? Punta Lagoria.
Punta Eve? Punta Eve?
Well, is it Punta Eve? Is that the day of the race though? But that's
So
not the circuit.
I'll give it to Andrew. The answer is Bunta Eve.
So he goes through Baker's Canyon. Bunta Eve class.
Who is the only non-Jedi in the original trilogy to use a lightsaber? So, hello. What is the
Han Solo.
name?
I didn't have a second to
Man,
comprehend the
they
question.
smell worse on
I love the
inside.
Family Guy bit. The Family Guy
I
bit.
thought they
It
smelled
takes
bad
forever
on
to
the
say it. I thought they smelled bad. On the outside. What is the name of the planet where the clone army was created? Nice. Joey. Just a
Camino.
little faster.
Joey got it. Joey got it.
Who is the actor behind the original voice of Darth Vader?
Bob Marley.
Nice. That one for Joey.
James Earl Jones.
What is the name of the creature that lives in the garbage compactor in the Death Star in A New Hope?
Oh, I know what that is.
Yes, Joey got it.
No idea.
A Dianoga.
What is the
Cool.
what does the TIE
Meganoga.
TIE fighters stand
Tactical intercepting.
for?
Enforcer?
I'll give you the first word. Twin.
I don't have a guess.
Yes.
Twin ion.
Good job. I was not expecting you guys to get that.
Cool.
Joey has
What do you got, 5?
Because
I don't know if you count that one. That was rough.
I think Joey's at 5.
who adopted Leia from Padme after Padme's death?
Bail Organa.
Bail Organa.
What species is
Joey
Admiral Akbar?
Not Aqualish. He's
Oh.
no, was it Aqualish? No, calamari. Duh. Calamari.
Mon calamari, but
He's the food.
Yeah.
Mon calamari, yes. From Mon Cal.
Where's the rest of my questions?
What are you just looking
No,
at
the rest of my list.
now? Like, what's going on here?
He's live from the hip.
What's the name of my favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, my list. My list.
Qui-Gon
is here.
Jinn. Joey, let's hear
Dude, the same.
Okay, so these are hard. The last 5. You ready? What is the name of the rebel officer who leads the briefing before the Battle of Yavin in A New Hope?
Smith.
That's not fake Wedge, is it?
I'll give you a hint.
He's
It's a
next to
general.
Luke. General Nadine.
General Antilles.
Nadine.
General Dodonna.
Dodonna. Come on, Dodonna.
Dodonna, don't do that to me. What is the name of the Sith homeworld introduced in Star Wars Clone Wars and seen in The Rise of Skywalker?
Oh my gosh.
It's
So, okay, because this was retcon. So the Sith home planet that they introduced in the Clone Wars, and then we see in The Rise of Skywalker.
Malachor? Is it not Malachor?
it's I'm gonna kick myself for this.
I should totally know this.
It's
Exegol.
dang it.
Yeah.
But what was
Well,
it? Clone Wars, wasn't it different?
They retconned it.
They just retconned it. Like, they just...
through that. So because there's 2 original Sith homeworlds, right? Because they shoot, I don't even remember what the original one was, but Korriban, and then it was changed to Morahan,
was
like reverse, and then they turned it
Morband, see,
and then they turned it into
the M I was
Exegol.
remembering.
Which, to be honest, if we're being real Star Wars fans, I don't think they did do that in the Clone Wars, because they said it was brought up Exegol. Probably would have been Rebels that they talked about Exegol, because I think in the
because in Clone
with
Wars they
Darth
did
Bane.
Mal whatever it was.
yeah.
With Bane, and Yoda went there. Yeah, at the end of season 5 or 6, where
Okay.
the Yoda.
I always want to be like, I don't want to get too down the Star Wars road. Like, if you made it this far in the podcast, you're a Star Wars fan, so we could talk about that. Okay, in The Empire Strikes Back, what is the name of the Imperial officer who finds the Millennium Falcon hiding on the back of the Star Destroyer?
The Imperial officer
These are hard.
wasn't he found it?
Imperial officer finds the Millennium Falcon hiding on the back.
I thought they waited until it
He
was
says,
released and then
"Thank
Boba Fett
you."
chased him.
Blank.
And he kills the guy too, doesn't he? Thank you. What's his name? No, Admiral Yularen is dead at this point, right?
Give you a hint. It's a captain.
Okay, I get
I have no idea.
No.
Smith.
Captain Meat.
Attila.
What is the name of the creature that attacks Luke in the cave on Hoth? There you go. The question literally had Wampa in it. It said, what's the name of the creature that attacks Luke in the Wampa cave on Hoth? I'm so glad I didn't read that. Okay.
Nice.
What is here's one. Ready? So, Andrew, you are 4. Joey, you are 7. But, are you at 5?
I'm at 5.
I don't think so. Well,
Yeah.
Joey's in the lid.
All right.
Okay.
Keep going.
So this is for all the
Andrew.
beans, right? This one wins it all. If you guys get it.
Okay.
Oh,
Correct.
Anything else doesn't matter.
What is the name? What is the full name? Of
What is it,
Ewok
Star Wars movie?
Helps Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi. What's the
Full name? I know
You
it's
guys the
Wicket.
full name?
But what's the full name of Wicket? Wicket Yubnub?
I'm going to say Yub Nub.
All right. So it has to do
Evergreen?
with the actor who plays him.
And that was the same guy who played Willow, right? That wasn't
No.
Kenny Baker, was it? That was an R2D2. Oh my gosh. I can hear his voice. They interviewed him so many times in RFR. I can hear his British accent. Oh my gosh.
I have no idea.
What's the name? What's the name?
Well, that's
first name of
that
the
gives
actor?
it away. So, okay, so we'll give it.
What's the last name of the actor? Warwick.
Yes.
Warwick Davis. So it's Wicket Warwick.
Wicket W. Warwick. So
Nice.
we'll give that to Joey.
Wicket
Joey's the winner for Star Wars trivia. Good job, man. Well, that was fun, guys. Fun
Amazing.
chatting the wars. Fun chatting The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Is it hot garbage? Is it cinematic masterpiece? It's both.
You just.
I think that I will decide right now it's probably 40. It's on the middle, 50-50.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
10% towards hot garbage for me.
I will say it's worth talking about. And you guys mentioned in your last episode that the toxic fan base of some things like Star Wars. And I would say that honestly, I avoid all that. And I just do the things that I like, which is listen to podcasts that are positive. And like,
Nice.
I don't associate with the people that like just relentlessly hate it. And just like this, we bashed on this movie the whole time. But you know what? I had a good time. And it's the Star Wars we have. And I'm like, it's worth watching. Like he said, it's not boring.
It is.
And it's got a lot of flaws, but it's what we got. It's not boring.
Yeah, just enjoy Star Wars.
Enjoy Star Wars.
Amazing. Joey, thanks for being on, buddy. This was super fun.
Thanks for
I
having me.
think he froze, but he I assume he's saying thank you. Oh, there we go.
I said, thanks for having me.
Andrew, my comrade, take us home.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joey, thank you for joining us. And as always,
Go see a movie. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Ba-da-da.